Good evening, everybody. You're all very welcome to another programme, a PODcast, a podcast with ourselves, the Peadar O'Donnell Socialist Republican Forum and Social Rights Ireland. And I think you know by now who I am. I'm Roisin, and you're all very welcome here. Tonight's topic is called Irish Unity, and underneath that, we've asked two questions: Irish Unity with whom and for what? Somebody would like to say something, and for the record, you're very welcome. Any hands up? I better check.
Yeah, Roshan, can I just come in there?
Sure, Paul, thank you.
You have Sinn Féin's was there asking the Irish government for a unity plan, but has Sinn Féin produced their own unity plan and what Irish unity will look like?
Not that I know of. Unity with whom? Unity with the US and the Zionists. Unity, yeah, with the EU. They're not so much pro-EU, but they certainly have shown that they have no interest in cutting ties with the US. And you see, Ireland's has a very romantic and long attachment with the US, so it's very, very hard to sever even psychologically. We have such a big diaspora there, but also, it was a place where so many people during An Gorta Mór founded themselves. So it's how do you break through that, Paul, Barry, or Tommy, or Alan?
Yeah, well, that was evident to be seen, obviously, not so long ago with the beginning of the genocide when they went whining and dining to Washington with genocide Joe Biden. But I was just wondering, have they got anything on paper, or has any of these political parties got anything on paper for what Irish unity will look like?
Well, I think there's a Future Ireland project. Now it's called Future Ireland. I think there are a number of projects in Project 2040. There are these government plans or forward thinking. I don't think they're proposals, but they have projects, initiatives, and plans, and those would all show that the actually the ties with the US, the ties with the EU are going to be stronger. So look at the idea of dismantling the triple lock. All of that is really to prepare us for closer relationship with NATO. And sure, we're already practically in NATO, all but name. So our Irish Defence Forces are already active with the EU battle groups, and they're recruiting young people in the schools. So it's that normalization of militarization has already happened, and that's north and south, Paul, as you know, and it's across the universities, the schools. There's huge attractive packages for young people to study the sciences, and it's called under green, it's green fascism really, but even under climate and biodiversity, drawing in young people to do these, because the careers guidance in schools now direct them towards this, aeronautical, aerospace, physics and science. That's where the money's going to be. And that's like 20 or 30 years ago, it was civil engineering, and maybe 40 or 50 years ago, it was something else. So the new current trend to attract young people, young students into undergraduate programs is all technology. Climate especially is the big cover for the militarization. Tommy, will you come in and give us maybe
Yes,
a final word?
I think you're right. There's no, if there's any planning at all for the future Ireland, and I'm getting worried that there's going to be because the Fine Gael blue shirts are talking about doing a plan for a new Ireland. And last time the Fine Gael party had a plan for United Ireland, it was authored by a man called Owen Duffy, which would have left us with a fine state of affairs. The thing is that the talk now is how that if we could have a United Ireland, it would allow us to all go back into the European Union, which is really exchanging one brand of imperialism for another brand of imperialism. I think the fact is that if there's any talk we have got to do, advocating socialism, I've got to make sure that when we talk about United Ireland, we're talking about a socialist republic, a workers' socialist republic, and that it's not something that just happens overnight. I've got to work across the whole country for it There's so many different ways of coming. It's not confined to one aspect. Labour disputes, housing disputes have got to be there. We've got to say, if we did in the past, bear in mind, over a century ago, the Fenians engaged in the Land League through Michael Davitt and laid the groundwork for a republic, which unfortunately was overthrown in 22. But again, I think we've got to get involved across the board, saying that we're here, a solution to this problem of housing, health, education. The solution is a socialist or a workers' republic.
Thank you, Tommy. And Tommy, I see Fra here as well. Do you see Fra in the room? So, like Fra, I know you were in Iran recently, but when we're talking like this about building our socialist republic, our workers' republic, quite often I find myself at the end of the wee videos and articles that we're writing and on the streets and speeches saying and onward to a 32 socialist republic, but we need an anti-imperialist front. We need a proper working class anti-imperialist, united anti-imperialist movement, front, whatever. What do you make of that, Fra? Like, I mean, are we, when you put it all into context and you look at, who are the anti-imperialists today? You're just back from Iran, the only country, well, Yemen as well, holding the Zionists to account or ending at least their impunity. What do you have to say, Fra?
I'm not sure you want to hear what I have to say. I mean, I've been here since the start at 7, and I don't know, guys. The only real socialist republics that we've seen anywhere in the world have all been through revolution. It's not been through democratic plebiscite, through a mass movement on the ground. I mean, you're talking about Lenin and stuff, and you're talking about the Russian Revolution. Sure, that was a revolution against a corrupt state leader in the form of the Tsar and the corrupt government. And when you look at places like South America, whenever you get a left-wing government elected, it's elected because the people are in poverty. The capitalist system has screwed people into the ground. Illiteracy rates, you have huge child mortality rates. So when people offer a socialist alternative, it's because of the dire situation people find themselves in, crying out for change and an end to the capitalist system. I believe the capitalist system here works to the point that it just gives enough for people to be able to get by, that you're not going to have armed struggle in the streets. You're not going to have an overthrow of empire, because people talk about bread and milk. When you don't have bread and you don't have milk for your children, people demand change. And short of that, I don't see how it comes about. When you're talking about anti-imperialism, I mean, when I grew up, it was like Che Guevara, Patrice Lumumba, it was Allende in Chile. But now I think we have Soleimani, we have Nasrallah, and we have Khamenei. Because if you'd have given me any one of their speeches and not told me who it was from, I'd have said that's a revolutionary leftist, socialist, anti-imperialist. So basically, in Iran, I mean, didn't we have the Iranian Revolution? And wasn't that a counterbalance to how many years the Shah was there, from 53 to 79? So you have revolutions whenever people are crushed under the imperialist jackboot of capitalist kind of military adventurism. And when they're talking about bringing democracy to Iran, they killed democracy in 1953 when they had the coup against Mossadegh. You've had the coup in Pakistan against Imran Khan, and he's rotting in jail. You had the coup against Morsi, Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, not anybody that I'm in favour of. But the CIA came along, they put Sisi in charge along with Mossad and MI6. So a short of a revolution, I don't think we're ever going to see the socialist republic that we're all striving for. And I don't know how that's ever going to come about, because, as I've said, I think that capitalist system does enough. When you had like labour in the old days and you had a proper social safety net, you know, for when we had free health and free education and subsidised social housing and you had the social security network, and neoliberal austerity has struck all that to the side. And when it comes to sectarianism here, I understand what everybody's saying, but I feel it's a case of the nationalists want national reunification, the unionists want to remain part of Britain, and that's used as a sectarian divide. So I don't know how it's going to be fixed, but I don't have any hope in the short term, sadly.
Mm. No, when you're talking about revolution, we're also talking about revolutionary politics,
Politics, no, I get that,
revolutionary
yep.
thinking. You know, there is a difference. And also, I think what we're finding now with the Palestine movement, that it is a lot of radical people, but being radical doesn't necessarily mean that you're revolutionary, because you brought in that word adventurism. I mean, there's one thing like direct action, shut it down, but you've got to always think about the consequences. And maybe, you know, feel it's certainly in Dublin that if more of the activists who believe themselves to be radical thought about the consequences for working class people who are being very much disrupted, you know, and you wonder how much of this disruption is that affecting business, is really disrupting the people who we're trying to disrupt, which is the Zionist entity or the Zionist controlled, you know, banks, finance, universities. There was no appetite for no appetite whatsoever. And I don't even like using the word left because I don't think there is a left in Ireland. There
Agreed.
anywhere, north or south, there's no left. But there is no appetite to confront power where nobody from the working class or ordinary people or the poor would have been affected or disrupted or annoyed or put out at UCD, at the university. None. And yet we have people walking past us to go and block the port. For what reason? I don't know what the port, why it was significant. Unless you're prepared to say we're staying here for a week or a month, what is the point in blocking a port for 1 week? You know, that really revolutionary either. So we need to think about what is direct action, and remember that not all direct action is revolutionary. It might look radical on Instagram, but is it actually coming from a revolutionary place? And I don't think you have to, you're right, Fred, I don't think you need to read Lenin or Marx or anybody to understand that, to get that. Alan, you've your hand up there.
Yeah, see, I think Frost pointed correct. There is going to be no revolution unless, except in situations where there is extreme poverty, destruction of society. But we know that that's going to happen. We know that this imperialist capitalist world will go through various convulsions over the next 50, 100 years, and that there will be nuclear wars, there'll be chaos, there'll be different in different and anticipated ways. And that's part of what we have to do. We have to explain that this is a highly unstable. Well, when you have it run by capitalism, it will go through convulsions. So, and in countries like ours, we build the movement, we prepare what we can, and we are ready for when the whole thing collapses and falls apart. That there is a body there to lead, but you're never going to actually overthrow a government and create a socialist republic of the sort that happened in the Bolshevik Revolution outside of a deeply chaotic world. But we also know that is going to come. That it's not going to stay like this. It's just inevitable that these people will make a complete mess of it. That they'll go to war. There'll be destruction in some way or another.
I do think I think it mightn't take 50 or 100 years, Alan. If you look at the AI bubble and an article that Barry you sent me during the week, you know how this inflation or this the markets are dictated by Trump's tweets. Like, you know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think we are, and I don't think we should be gleeful about living rising and people being more and more impoverished. And yet I think what you're saying, Fra, is that is what it takes to make people rise up. But how they rise up, who is going to lead, who is going to be there, is very important, which is why, you know, we ourselves need to be organized within our own communities and with each other as well. You know, wider, it's not that far for us. We can talk like this very easily and get real about, well, what are we doing? Maybe that's the next stage. We should be meeting in these Zooms talking about what are we doing? What are we doing this week? What are we doing next week? What are we doing next month? What's our program? Who's delivering our program, and how are we organised? Conscious of the time, I think we might leave it there. So I'd like to just thank everybody for coming, for joining in. Thank you, Barry, for starting the conversation. Tommy, for starting the conversation while Barry was eating his dinner. And Alan, Paul, Fra coming in impromptu. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. And for those who, and Paul, great. And if you haven't seen Paul, he did a wee video there, but all politics is local, Paul. Check it out. But for those of you who've just listened in, might want to say something, come back, say it the next time. There's no such thing as a silly question at all. And everybody's point of view is important. So it's important that we all have a voice and that everybody would feel welcome, even when we disagree. It's very important to debate and to disagree. If we're all saying the same thing, then we're not all thinking, I guess. So thanks very much. Keep her lit, whatever you have planned for during the week. This is only Monday, so you have 6 days to go and plan for that revolution. Fra and anybody comes up with any genius ideas in the meantime to accelerate it and to bring it on forward, because the frustration is real, and we're seeing horrendous things coming out of Palestine, Lebanon, Iran. I mean, right now, they are the people who are in a revolution, who are fighting on our behalf, on humanity's behalf. So thank you very much. Free Palestine. Victory to Iran.